All right, let's dive right in. We're about to talk about the most unbelievable astronauts you could ever imagine. I'm talking about microscopic survivors that might, just might, have already made it to another world, clinging to the wreckage of a crashed spaceship. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But it's a very real question that scientists have been asking. So, what do you think? Could there be a tiny, undocumented colony of Earth life sitting up there on the moon right now? Well, to figure that out, we first have to understand how in the world it could have even gotten there. You see, our story doesn't start with a perfect, heroic landing. No, it starts with a pretty dramatic failure. Back in 2019, a mission with let's call it a secret passenger list, was headed for the lunar surface, and things definitely did not go according to plan. Okay, so picture this. It's April 11th, 2019. The Israeli lunar lander called Bereshit is making its final approach. But right in the middle of that critical landing sequence, a gyroscope fails. The main engine just cuts out. It's only 150 meters from the surface, but it's still rocketing down at over 500 kilometers per hour. The result? A violent crash, and its cargo, including a capsule of thousands of tiny dehydrated creatures, was blasted all over the lunar dust.
So, who were these secret passengers? They weren't astronauts or monkeys or anything like that. They were something way, way tougher. It's time to meet the hero of our story, the tardigrade, also known, pretty affectionately, as the water bear.
So what exactly are these things? Well, you can see they've got a couple of cute nicknames, water bears or moss piglets. And they are incredibly small, usually just half a millimeter long, barely visible. And their home is surprisingly common. They live in that thin layer of water you'd find on moss and lichens, which means you might literally have some in your own backyard right now. But don't let their simple look fool you, because their anatomy hides an absolutely extraordinary secret.
Because that ordinary-looking little moss piglet, it just happens to be one of the most resilient animals ever known to science. These guys aren't just survivors. They are the undisputed champions of survival, capable of withstanding conditions that would kill almost any other living thing in an instant.
Let's just talk about temperature for a second. A tardigrade can survive being cooled down to negative 272 degrees Celsius. That is just 1 degree above absolute zero, the literal, theoretical point where all atoms are supposed to stop moving. It's unbelievably cold. And on the flip side, they can handle being cooked up to 150 degrees Celsius, which is way, way above the boiling point of water. You know those crazy temperature swings on the moon from minus 170 to plus 120 Celsius? For a tardigrade, that is literally a walk in the park.
But okay, what about the radiation in space? Get this, tardigrades can withstand doses of up to 4,400 grays. Now, to put that in perspective, a dose of just 10 grays is fatal for a human. They can take hundreds of times the radiation that would kill one of us. It's just incredible.
And this chart really just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows how completely outmatched we are. The vacuum of space, deadly radiation, total dehydration, these are all things a tardigrade can just shrug off. In fact, they have survived being exposed directly to outer space on previous missions. They truly are nature's perfect astronauts. So the big question is, how on earth do they do it? What is the biological secret behind these insane superpowers? Well, the answer lies in a truly remarkable transformation they go through. The key to all of this is something called cryptobiosis. You can think of it like a state of suspended animation, but, taken to the absolute extreme. When things get really bad in their environment, the tardigrade doesn't just hibernate, it shuts down its metabolism so completely that for all intents and purposes, it's not even detectable. And this transformation happens in a few key steps. So first, when all the water around it dries up, the tardigrade pulls in its little legs and curls up into a tiny ball. Then it pushes out up to 95% of all the water in its body. This changes it into a dry, lifeless-looking little speck called a ton, and in this ton state, it's pretty much indestructible. Now, the science behind this is just wild. It's not just not getting dry. As this quote explains, what they do is create these special proteins that form a kind of biological glass inside their cells. It's amazing. This glassy material locks all their delicate cell parts into place, basically protecting them from getting shattered or damaged until water comes back. This ability is so incredible that, of course, NASA is studying them right now. The big hope is that if we can figure out the genes and the proteins that protect tardigrades, we might one day be able to develop ways to protect our own human astronauts from the brutal realities of long-term space travel. And all of this brings us right back to where we started. Back to our original question and our tiny little castaways on the moon. We know what they are now, and we know what they're capable of. So, what happened to them after that crash? Knowing everything that we now know about their mind-blowing resilience, let's ask it again. Are there thousands of tiny, eight-legged colonists just waiting for us on the moon, biding their time in the lunar dust? Well, here's the final verdict from the scientific community. Did they survive the crash itself? The evidence says probably yes. The speed of the impact was likely survivable for a tardigrade in its super durable ton state. Could they survive the vacuum, the radiation, the crazy temperatures on the moon? Absolutely. For a tardigrade, that's no problem at all. But, and this is the absolute key, can they live there? Can they wake up and colonize the moon? And the answer to that is a definitive, impossible no. To come out of that dormant state, they need liquid water, they need food, and they need oxygen, and the moon has none of those things. So while there are almost certainly thousands of perfectly preserved tardigrades on the moon, they are not living. They're just waiting for a rescue mission that is never, ever going to come.
So, no, we haven't contaminated the moon with life. But the story of the tardigrade is so much more than just a cosmic accident. It's really a lesson in resilience. It forces us to ask a bigger question. As we start looking out at the stars, trying to become a multi-planetary species, what other secrets to survival are hiding right here on Earth, just waiting for us to find them, in a single drop of water on a piece of moss?